Hey guys, welcome back to Animes R Us. Again with the voice cracks. We're reading Haven. This is episode 2 of the Haven fanfiction, so if you missed the first one, there will be a link in the description for the first episode. Chapter 3. Here we go. John began, but was cut off. No, you're an idiot. I mean, I assume you're new here, but you're still a complete idiot. I know, but it's like the first rule of this place, the person continued, ignoring John altogether. The voice was obviously male. You see the clown? Hell, you see anyone walking towards you in a slow and menacing way. You do not say hello or try to make any kind of contact. You turn tail and run. You get the fuck away from them. Yeah, was all John could think of saying. Yeah, is right. You can't be expecting anyone to save your sorry ass next time. Thanks. Don't mention it. It's kind of my thing. Who are you anyway? I'm John Egbert. Carcat. John's eyes had begun to adjust, and he could see the vague outline of Carcat sitting next to him and staring straight ahead. He spoke again. Well, now that you're here, I'm suppose I have to take you in. You don't have anywhere to stay, right? Right. Okay then, follow me, and be quiet once we get outside. He turned towards John, his yellow eyes glowing brightly, but it was slightly less creepy than before. Only slightly. Carcat curled back through the small hole, and John followed. They were in a thin alley, barely 5 feet across. It twisted and turned, and seemed to even look back on itself at one point, but John silently followed Carcat. He didn't hesitate as he turned and followed other paths. At one point, skirting through a musky-smelling building, and out the other side through a broken window. He seemed to have the entire city memorized. After about 15 minutes of complicated paths, they came to the entrance of what looked like an old clothing store. The sign was grime-covered and illegible, but the inside held rusty clothes racks and a few decrepit mannequins. John ignored these and went straight to the back. Carcat ignored these and went straight to the right wall, where he knelt down and pulled up a section of stained carpet. A trapdoor was attached to the stained fabric, and below it yawned a dark hole. The top of a wooden ladder could be seen, leaning against the side of the hole. In you go, Carcat said, gesturing. You can jump. It's not that far. John nervously peered into the hole. He couldn't see anything but blackness. I'm good, he said, reaching his foot down onto the ladder. John began to climb down, the ladder wobbling a bit, but then steadied. As soon as his entire body was below floor level, he felt a rush of air as Carcat jumped down the trapdoor with a whump. John then was left in complete darkness. He couldn't even see his hands in front of him. Does anything have lights down here? He asked, calling down to Carcat. Yeah, we do, but not at the entrance. We don't want to attract attention, Carcat answered from directly behind him. The ladder was a lot shorter than John had thought. He stepped off and followed Carcat's footsteps to his right. They were in a short tunnel which curved around to the right and was all of a sudden flooded with light, thanks to several fluorescent light bulbs strung up across the ceiling. The tunnel was with wooden support beams every few feet. Yeah, see? We got most of them working. He glanced back at John, then cut off. Holy shit. John couldn't answer. He was too busy staring at Carquette. I realized you were new, but I didn't think you were this new. Damn, you still look human. Carquette's words didn't register. John was transfixed. He had heard about the effects of the disease. It was clearly outlined in the school and government pamphlets. But besides the horrific encounter that had happened earlier, he hadn't seen a troll. That's what everyone called the people once they'd turned. Carquette's skin was dark gray, his eyes yellow. His lips had blackened, and behind them, John could see glimpses of a full mouth of pointed teeth. His hair was black, but John wasn't sure if that was an effect or not. The small orange horns peeked out from inside of his head, like oversized pieces of candy corn. My own note here, I imagine that the trolls look exactly as they would in the actual comic, except for their eyes, which, from the description given, I imagine are completely yellow, no pupil, not any kind of color because of, their blood and whatever. And back to the story. Carquette's skin was a dark, nope, read that. Sorry, guys. The troll in question seemed to grasp the fact that John wasn't paying the slightest attention to what he was saying, so he quietly trailed off and allowed John to observe him for a moment. Personally, Carquette was relieved to see someone looking so normal, being surrounded by gray-skinned and glowing eyes. The past few years of his life made him fear that he would forget what normal people even looked like. But he knew that given a few months, the kid would end up just like him, a freak. After a few more seconds, Carquette turned and continued to walk down the dimly lit tunnel. John trailed in his wake. Get used to it, he said. What we look like. You're going to turn soon enough. When did you get here? I got diagnosed this morning. Shit, they're taking them quicker now. Well, you should start seeing your skin change by as early as next week. John glanced unsteadily down at his hand. It was still a pale, peachy color. So, skin first? Yeah, skin first, then hair. But you don't have to worry about that. Then eyes, teeth, and finally you grow these weird things, he said, gesturing to his horns. Mine are still small. Haven't been here too long. Does it hurt? He asked, trying not to picture weird growths puncturing through his skull. Horns? No. Well, a bit. It's kind of like growing teeth. Oh. They reached a small door, which Carquette knocked 5 times on. They heard a sigh coming from the other side, feet shuffling, and then the sound of a padlock being opened. The door swung inward to reveal another troll, with red and blue glasses and a mildly cross expression, which softened when he saw Carquette. Oh, hey KK, he said. Who's the new kid? This is John. Makara was about to bludgeon him, so I brought him back. Makara being Gansey. As usual then? Yeah. The other troll stepped back, letting Carquette and John inside. He spoke with a lisp, probably due to the fang-like front teeth poking out of his mouth. Neither of the trolls looked much older than John. Carquette shut the door and locked it. This is Captor, Solix. He's an annoying prick, but he's also the reason we have electricity and computers, Carquette explained. Your affection knows no bounds, Solix said sarcastically, as he made his way back to the corner of the room, where several beat-up monitors flickered on a sturdy wooden table. What did he mean, as usual? Asked John. He has a stupid obsession with rescuing idiots, Solix interjected. No offense. Carcat glared at him. I don't know. Like I said before, it's kind of my thing. Like, there was stuff I wanted to do, before all this shit happened. And now I'm stuck here for the rest of my short, stupid life. So I figured I might as well try to do something. Help somebody. I probably have 6 years left, at best. So I guess it's my way of trying to achieve something. It sounds dumb when I say it out loud, though. John shrugged. I don't think it sounds that dumb. Episode 4. Carcat crossed the room and flopped down on one of the 2 beaten-up sofas. John followed and sat down at the one perpendicular to it and glanced around the room. It was fairly small, the sofas sitting in the middle of the room around a coffee table covered in stains. On it sat a slightly outdated flat-screen TV. Solix sat in a swivel chair, typing rapidly, but it was too far away for John to make out what he was saying. Next to the desk were several cabinets bolted to the wall, the paint peeling off. Underneath sat an oven, and on it several pans. John turned behind him and saw there were 3 niches on the wall, and in them were blankets and pillows, sort of bunk beds, John supposed. Next to them, a door led into another room. The floor was covered in mismatched rugs and carpet squares, giving it a sort of checkerboard appearance. You hungry? Carcat finally said. Tired, John answered. He wanted to ask if he could sleep on one of the bunk beds in the wall, but he felt like it might be rude. Well, too bad. Sorry, but you have to stay up till dawn. What? Why? We're nocturnal, Solix answered, without looking up for his screen. Once your skin changes, the sun burns. Like vampires? Solix laughed. Sort of, but it's not fatal. It just really fucking hurts. Whatever, I'm hungry, Carcat said, then got up and went over to the stove. John lay back on the sofa and stared up at the ceiling, figuring he might as well get used to being nocturnal now. Last night he slept in his own bed, and now here he was, in a secret underground fort with 2 disease-ridden teenagers, which had somehow become his new home. Yesterday seemed ages away. 5 minutes later, Carcat returned with 3 bowls of soup, shoving one at John. He looked down at the bowl, surprised to see something so familiar. Ramen? He asked. Yeah, get used to it. It's sort of the only fucking food that survives in this place. Aw, really? Yeah, I mean sometimes I can trade and get other stuff, like Twinkies and whatever, but they don't give us any food when we came, and the grocery stores here are really, really old. We do have an oven, Suggs added. That beats, like, everyone else. You're welcome, by the way. Carcat rolled his eyes. We've had that thing for like 3 years now. People don't need to keep thanking you. Everyone was silent for a moment. The only sound was slurping noodles. After a few minutes, John spoke. So, what do you do here? Dick around on computers, go outside, car sells black market ramen, Solix said. I don't sell it, dumbass. I trade it for stuff. The stuff that you use. And it's not the black market unless there's a regular market. I mean, there's no laws here, so pretty much do whatever the hell you want. Especially shady noodle dealings in dark alleyways. Hell yeah. A lump had formed in John's throat, unrelated to the soup he was eating. Carcat and Solix's back and forth banter was forcibly reminding him of his own best friends. The phrase black market ramen seemed exactly like the kind of thing Dave would say for no fucking reason. Then go on a long metaphorical tangent about it. He Didn't even get to say goodbye to them. The last thing he said was how much he didn't want to take that quiz in math, which Rose, Jade, and Dave had agreed to. They all had to get in alphabetical order along with the rest of the school, so he drifted off to the front of the line with a wave and didn't see them again. Solix eventually got up and put on a movie, something John remembered seeing in the theater several years ago, but he didn't pay much attention. When the first movie ended and they put on a second one, John could hardly keep his eyes open. Kirk had gestured that he could sleep in the leftmost bottom bed, then muttered something about it being the worst to Solix, who snickered. John, however, was too tired to care. He curled up on his side, facing away from the two boys. He slipped off to sleep quickly, dreaming of home. I think one more chapter will do it. John awoke early the next morning, or night, as it was now, because he went to bed so early, or late. John shook his head, trying not to confuse himself. Anyways, he was awake, and Solix and Karkat were clearly still asleep. He pulled the red comforter off him and rolled out of bed. He felt a little rumpled, having slept still in his clothes and shoes. Trying not to wake the other two, he tiptoed to the door and locked it. He wasn't running away. Karkat and Solix seemed friendly enough, but he didn't have anywhere else to stay. He simply wanted to see the city when it was still light out. John exited the tunnel, then up the ladder, through the trapdoor, and into the dusty store, giving the creepy mannequins a wide berth. He made his way to the door and into the empty street. The sun beat down. It was probably still 6 or 7 in the evening. In the light, the alleyways seemed less threatening, just kind of sad now. He glanced around up to the tall buildings and got a sudden urge to climb one. He'd never been afraid of heights. Tall places with lots of air and space around always beckoned him. He raced back to the store quickly, finding the broken down escalator in the back corner. He jogged up, taking 2 steps at a time and going up several floors. It took a while, traveling from escalator to staircase, but he made it up significant amount of floors. The floors were full of offices now, empty cuticles and scattered papers still lying around. John now understood where Karkat and Solix got all the furniture. Finally reached the top floor and attempted to open the door leading to the roof, but it was locked. Disappointed, he turned away, but a sudden gust of wind startled him. He turned to his left. The wind came from through the many windows of the office that were all broken. Could he possibly? John clutched the ledge above him. The wind whipped through his hair. He had hesitated before coming out, then realized the fact that he had an incurable fatal disease that would result in him transforming into a sort of monster-like being that burned by the sunlight. After that, climbing out a window ledge didn't seem like that big of a deal. Slowly, limb by limb, he crawled up the wall, which thankfully wasn't that far from the roof, which he flopped onto. It was flat, concrete, and empty. It kind of reminded him of the top of Dave's apartment building, which he tried to avoid thinking about. John lay on his back, eyes closed, trying to absorb as much heat and light as he could in the short time he had left. The sun beat down on him, soaking through his clothes and into his skin, causing his mind to relax more than it had this entire short, strange trip in Haven. He found himself dozing off and not caring, because right now he was alone, in the best way possible. He was woken by a shake on the shoulder. He blinked, right hand scrubbing for his glasses before shoving them on his face. He was greeted by glowing yellow eyes illuminating Karkat's face. It was dark out now. The stars were visible again. "Hey," Karkat said. John shook his head, trying to wake. "How'd you get up here?" How'd you know I was up here?" "Well, I didn't. I thought you'd skipped out on us. This is where I normally come. You aren't leaving, though, right?" "Yeah, I'm starving." "Good. It gets a little lonely with just Captor for company." Karkat moved away and went to sit on the ledge, his back to John, his feet dangling over the edge. "This is kind of my favorite place," Karkat continued. "I used to come up here in the daytime when I could, but the night is good too. You can see everything that goes on. Makes it all seem insignificant, sort of." He beckoned to John, who came over and sat next to him. The two of them peered down, looking at the complicated networks of alleys and side streets. He could see shadows moving around, and a few flashes of yellow eyes here and there. They watched a few minutes before John spoke. "Do you get used to it?" "What?" "All this. Sort of. I mean, I've been here since I was 10. Sometimes I hardly remember my old life now. This place is just so strange. Like people die and kill each other all the time, and that's basically normal. Sometimes I want to go back so badly, but then I remember I look like this. Man, it's bullshit, you know. Like my own parents wouldn't even recognize me at this point. My friends sure as hell wouldn't. I mean, to them, I'm dead. We're all dead. They just shove us in this crap-ass city, and that's it. They're like, sorry kid. We don't care that you're fucking 5th grade who has never spent more than a night away from your parents, but you're going to try and cure you. Instead, we're going to dump you in a crazy city full of monsters, and so you can slowly morph into one." John was silent for a moment. "That fucking sucks, dude. Sorry." And that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe for the next episode, which should be coming out soon. Thanks, Blood, for letting me doing this with your fanfiction. It is amazing, and I hope you guys enjoyed.